Let's have a quick look at those who will be fronting the grid.
Bottas,
Leclerc and Alexander Albon. Well, that wraps up qualifying, but don't worry, we'll be back tomorrow as we head into the Grand Prix.
Here we go, revving up to 5 red lights, and it's lights out, and away we go. That is Leclerc in front of Vettel. Bottas gets off the line pretty well. Into the lead he goes. Well, he was already on pole. There we can see the racing point of Sergio Perez going for it on Sebastian Vettel. Daniel Ricciardo on the outside, Perez on the inside of Vettel. This is a battle for 4th place. Then down the inside goes Ricciardo, around the outside goes Perez. And they're still 3 wide after going through the first 3 corners. 3 wide, and they're still 3 wide. Who's going to take this one? Who's going to be latest on the brakes? Ricciardo's late on the brakes. Perez is late on the brakes. Vettel not so much. Around the outside goes Ricciardo. Down the inside goes Perez, and Vettel has lost places from the start. Around the outside goes Sebastian Vettel on Danny Ricciardo. Can he make this work? This would be a sensational move. Back down the inside of Ricciardo. They're still side by side. Then on the inside goes Danny Rick. They're still side by side through this entire complex of corners. Now down the straight, it's Ferrari versus Renault. Renault wins it this time. Vettel's on the inside. Down the inside goes Vettel. He's not close enough. That's Hamilton, who's already made up some places. After starting 9th, and Verstappen, who started down in 13th, has also made up many places. Now on the back of the McLaren and Mercedes. Going down the straight, Bottas already has a pretty healthy lead. We're on board with Lewis Hamilton. And now here comes Max Verstappen down this straight. Look at the straight line speed of that Red Bull. After the engine upgrades that they did bring this race, who's going to be latest on the brakes? It's Verstappen around the outside of Lewis Hamilton. On board with Carlos Sainz. Will Verstappen hold it? Yes, he will. What a move by Max. What a great lap 1 from the young Dutchman. Now on an onboard replay of Max Verstappen's lap 1 after starting down at 13th, we can see he's trying to go around the outside of the McLaren. I believe that's Lando Norris. You can see the Alpha of Kimi Räikkönen on his inside. Round the outside goes Verstappen. Look at that speed he can carry through the corners, starting on the medium tires. Unlike Hamilton, who's decided to start on the softs, and now Verstappen getting squeezed a little bit by Esteban Ocon. Ocon gets a jump on him on the exit there. Look at the exit Esteban Ocon got. As Verstappen continues to chase him down, and Max Verstappen sends it down the inside of not only Ocon, Hamilton as well. They make contact. Max lucky not to lose any front wing there, but he makes it work on Esteban Ocon. What a move by Max Verstappen. Very aggressive stuff. As he continues to chase down Lewis Hamilton in this race. After starting down in 13th, I believe he's made it up into 10th place now. As we can see just in front, Ricciardo and Vettel still going side by side. They're slowing down this train a little bit, which is allowing Max to just stay with them and even make these overtakes. Hamilton's on the outside of Daniel Kvyat. Round the outside goes Verstappen. Hamilton's on the inside of the McLaren of Carlos Sainz. And they're still going to go side by side. Max on the back of them. Here they go, down the straight with the slipstream. Max opening the overtake button, and we can see just how powerful that button is. Looks like Red Bull have really made those engine upgrades work. As soon as he turns it off, it looks like it's not as good in a straight line. Now who's going to be later on the brakes? Of course, it's Verstappen, as we saw earlier in this race. And round the outside goes Verstappen at the hairpin. What a move on Lewis Hamilton, one of his championship rivals. Now, through the final corner, he goes onto the straight. Now back live with this race. You can see Bottas is leading from Leclerc, and Albon doing a decent job in 3rd place. This is one of his best positions he's been in after a very, very tough start to this season. He's been struggling to beat midfield cars in that Red Bull, which Max made it seem like it was a championship contender, although after the last couple of races, we're not so sure anymore. Ricciardo continues to hold that gap over Vettel. He is holding in front of Vettel. I don't know when DRS comes in. We can see Max making a small mistake, cutting the corner a little bit there, and going on the gravel, which is going to allow Hamilton to catch up a little bit, as the gravel is going to be on Verstappen's tires. As we continue to go down the grid, Esteban Ocon doing not a great job compared to his teammate. Of course, yesterday it was raining in qualifying until the very, very end, so it was really only the drivers who went up at the end that were able to maximize that qualifying. And of course, Valtteri Bottas did a great job of that as he continues to hold this lead. Max Verstappen's closest championship rival. And Bottas still continues to pull away from Leclerc, who's now actually, it looks like he might be under threat from Alexander Albon. who is in the slipstream of Leclerc. Will Albon be able to overtake Charles Leclerc and possibly take second place in this race? Once DRS comes into play. See, Ricciardo is holding a bit of a train here, which is allowing Verstappen to really catch up after starting down in 13th. He has made his way up to 7th place, I believe. He's doing a great job of it. Now we can see Verstappen closer to Vettel this lap. Can he overtake Vettel? Is the question. As Hamilton's also behind Max, although Max is quicker than Lewis. And Max, of course, on that harder competitive tire meeting later in this race, he's going to be even faster. At the moment, he's the second fastest car on the grid, of course, of a Bottas just pulling away in that lead on the softer compounded tire with that Mercedes, which seems to be working incredibly well at this track. Of course, Hamilton did have the little mistake in qualifying yesterday as he went out too early in the session, which cost him many places, and of course it cost Max many places too. As he continued to go down this grid, you can see, now look at how close Verstappen is to Vettel. He's all over the back of Vettel. Vettel's losing time to Ricciardo, which is very surprising. Ricciardo finally really showing himself, and look at that, Verstappen goes off. That's going to allow Hamilton to go down the inside. Will Lewis Hamilton be able to make this work? Who's going to be later on the brakes? It's going to be Hamilton. He's down the inside. Verstappen holds it on the outside. Max has the inside of the next corner. Lewis is going to be right behind him, and Max goes off again. Another mistake by Max Verstappen. He's going very wide through there. Now he's going to be right in the slipstream of Lewis Hamilton. He's going to try and re-overtake Lewis. It's going to be an epic battle for 7th place at the moment, but Hamilton does have DRS. I believe Max has it too, but that Mercedes power unit is very strong. Round the outside, can Max make this work? Not quite. He nearly goes into the back of Hamilton, trying that switchback. Max Verstappen all over the back of Lewis Hamilton. And he can't quite make this work now. His mediums don't seem to be as quick as we might have thought, and now Hamilton is pulling away that in the distance as he continues to chase down Sebastian Vettel. Max Verstappen making those mistakes, and it's cost him big time in this race. To yet another place to Lewis Hamilton. Now we can see, look, you see how close Albon was, and now Ricciardo all over the back of Sergio Perez, I believe. So, look at the run he's got. Ricciardo all over his tail now. Thought that Racing Point was going to have a little bit more pace. And Ricciardo's still right behind that Racing Point. Surely with DRS he'll be able to make this work, but you can see he's lost quite a lot of time through those few corners now because of the dirty air. But Ricciardo is dragging that Renault up very, very well. The Renault has actually proved to be one of the better cars in the midfield this year. Probably around the same speed as the McLaren, and now here he is with DRS. Well, he hasn't opened DRS quite yet, and he's opened it up right now on the straight. Can Ricciardo do it? He's on the inside, down the inside, goes Danny Ricciardo on Sergio Perez. And Perez has to back off. Ricciardo makes it work. Brilliant move by Daniel Ricciardo. And into the pits he goes, locking up a little bit. Now we are on board with Sebastian Vettel, who's barely holding off Lewis Hamilton. Of course, Max Verstappen's going to go longer on this stint than either of these two, trying to make that overcut work. Will it? I'm not quite sure, but it all depends on how much traffic Vettel, Hamilton, and even the guys in front get stuck in. At the moment, Vettel holding Hamilton behind pretty well, but that Ferrari is struggling today. We saw even Albon, but struggling this season, was faster than Leclerc. And now Vettel has also been struggling in this race. He's way behind his teammates. So continue to go down this grid here. And there is Valtteri Bottas in front of Charles Leclerc. Look at how much time Albon's lost in the pits there. He's lost a lot of time in the pits. He must have been held up in the pits, which is very unfortunate for Albon. You can see Bottas chasing down that Williams. Bottas has a lot of pace in this race, and it doesn't seem like anyone's really going to challenge him for the win today. As the only cars that are around his speed at the moment are Verstappen and Hamilton, who had started way down the grid and are struggling to overtake Sebastian Vettel. You see, Leclerc is still kind of there with Bottas, but he's not really close enough to really make any kind of overtakes on him anytime soon. You can see Bottas stuck behind the Williams. He couldn't make the overtake work, despite being on the fresher tires and a significantly faster car. And into the pits goes the Williams, freeing Bottas into free air now with the fresh tires. Here goes Bottas. This is where we can really see his pace. He's going to be absolutely flying now. You can see he's already catching up to the Williams. Look at how much he's just catching up to George Russell up ahead. That Mercedes is looking mighty good this race. Look at how much, even in the dirty air, he's catching up by a lot, and he's all over the back of George Russell now. George is holding him up a little bit. There's no one that can really overtake him currently that are doing the overcut. Here he is on the back of George Russell. Can he make it round the outside? Russell defends very nicely, placing his car perfectly so Bottas can't make an overtake, and George Russell actually defending incredibly well against the Mercedes. You wouldn't expect it, but he is doing a great job. On the back of Russell, and before even the DRS gets activated, he's in front, and now he's got the DRS, and it's an easy move. Sparking away goes Bottas. A lot of sparks from that Mercedes as he gets in front of the Williams of George Russell. You can see Leclerc has caught up a little bit because of him getting stuck in traffic, and look at how much time Albon's lost to Leclerc. Leclerc is now closer to Bottas than Albon is to Leclerc, which is very unfortunate for Albon. But it does seem like the podium is still possible for him, as once again, no one else will really be able to challenge him in this race. Hamilton and Verstappen and Vettel are just a little bit too far behind, and it seems like Ricciardo and Perez's pace in their cars are simply not good enough to catch Albon. So Ricciardo, sorry, that was Lance Stroll. That was not Sergio Perez, that was Lance Stroll the whole time, my bad. And Ricciardo has overtaken Stroll. You can see Hamilton's now on the back of Carlos Sainz, I believe? Or is that Lando Norris? That is Lando. You can see Stroll going defensive. Stroll had a brilliant start to this race. In fact, a pretty good qualifying as well. He started pretty high up the field, and just the fact that, you know, of course he was battling Vettel and Ricciardo at the start, and he outbroke both of them, so that's very impressive stuff from Lance Stroll, but he's lost place there, and that is Sainz, sorry, in front of Hamilton, who has actually overtaken Sebastian Vettel. Of course, Max Verstappen continues to hold the lead of this race on the Warren medium tires, although I don't think this overcut is going to really work, as he's probably going to be losing time, as I don't think these guys on the fresher tires are going to be much slower than Max. Ricciardo surprisingly close to Albon there. I think Ricciardo had a really good stop, a really good in-lap and out-lap. As you can see, he's absolutely flying at the moment. Great driving by Danny Rick. You can see Sainz is now chasing down Lance Stroll, but he's not that much faster, so he's going to have to really push if he wants to get Stroll in this race, who's been doing a pretty decent job. And we can see Hamilton behind, and then Vettel. It'll be very interesting to see where Max Verstappen comes out and how much pace he's going to have on the soft tires. We know how good he is at overtaking, but the question is, will his soft tires give a big enough advantage to make those overtakes work properly? I do believe Sainz was actually behind Hamilton at one point, if I'm not mistaken. Here we go. Carlos Sainz on the back of Lance Stroll with the DRS down the inside into turn 1. Goes Carlos Sainz. He does lock up a little bit. That's Stroll on his tail. Sainz gets out in front. Great driving by Sainz to get in front of Stroll, who's actually struggling on these mediums. He's not as quick as Ricciardo or Sainz. He was about matching their pace before, and now he's got 2 top guys behind him, or at least Hamilton has a car that is significantly faster than the Racing Point, despite looking incredibly similar. And then Vettel is behind them both. And here comes Hamilton. He's actually very close to Stroll. He might actually go for it here. He's just a little bit too far back. Stroll's going defensive. Stroll locks up. Hamilton's round the outside. Goes Lewis Hamilton. Oh, surely not. This would be a stunning move if he can make this work. Of course, it is on a midfield car. And down the inside goes Lewis Hamilton. What an overtake by Lewis. He forced Stroll into a mistake and went clean around the outside of him. Reminding us of Sebastian Vettel's move on Daniel Ricciardo back in 2017 here at this track. It was a great move then, and this was also a great move here. See, Stroll was just dropping down the field. It looked like Sainz might actually be catching up to Daniel Ricciardo a little bit. As I'll see AlphaTauri doing a decent job there, and Ocon doing an okay job, but he is behind his teammate by quite some way. I do believe he was also screwed in qualifying, or possibly just did not have the pace. And here comes Sebastian Vettel. I do believe Stroll does possibly have DRS. He does, but Vettel's behind him. Will Vettel go for it? He's very close to him, but he doesn't actually go for it as we continue to go up the field. On board with Alexander Albon here. Sorry, no, that's Max Verstappen. Max Verstappen he's jumped them all. When did Max do that? That's insane. He's jumped them all on that overcut. Here he is, chasing down his teammate now, and that would be for a podium. That'd be 10 places gained in this race. Max Verstappen, what a comeback. What a great strategy, great driving. His speed on the mediums is really what helped him in this race, as he was pretty much matching Hamilton on the softs, but now he's the one on the softs. He's probably going to set fastest lap as well, to possibly get a podium here off his teammate. Look at him, and he's catching him on the softer compound of tire, as well as so far this season being the better driver. Other than, of course, in Vietnam, where Max had an absolutely atrocious race. He continues to chase Max down. Sorry, Albon down. Here's Max. I do believe he is in the DRS. He does have overtake activated. He's on the back of Albon. He's a little bit too far back. No, he's not. Down the inside of Albon. Albon struggles a little bit on the exit. What a move by Max Verstappen. A big dive from a very long way back. And he absolutely licked the stamp and sent it. Just like his former teammate Daniel Ricciardo does. And a great drive by Verstappen to make up all these places in this race. And look at that now. Ricciardo was under threat from Carlos Sainz in that McLaren, which has been struggling to actually beat the Renault this season, but finally it looks like that McLaren is going a bit quicker. It looks like some teams have brought upgrades this weekend. Red Bull did, and it looks like McLaren have as well, because they seem to be about the same speed as Renault, and you can see Sainz is all over the back of Ricciardo now. He's really catching him, and Hamilton is catching them as well. Stroll is holding off Vettel pretty well. He's staying in the DRS of Hamilton. Despite being overtaken, you could clearly see the lack of pace when he was overtaken, but now he's just staying with them as Hamilton stuck behind Ricciardo and Sainz. Hamilton did make some decent moves this race, but just not as many as Max did, and he's just couldn't nail the strategy as well as Max did, because of course Hamilton did start in 9th and not in 13th like Max did, and Hamilton just a bit too far back to really make a move. Sainz too far back to make a move, but now Ricciardo's going to struggle in this straight. The Renault has had some decent straight line speed this year, but of course McLaren also has a Renault engine, and with the slipstream and the DRS, it should be an easy move. Hamilton's not even in the slipstream of them. I'm not quite sure what he's doing, but he tucks back into the slipstream. Here goes Sainz down the inside of Daniel Ricciardo. Who's going to be later on the brakes? It's going to be Sainz down the inside. Ricciardo holds it on the outside. Can Daniel Rick hold this? Into the next corner. Sainz on the outside makes the move. And it's great driving by Carlos Sainz to get in front of Ricciardo. And here comes Hamilton. No, he's actually not alongside Ricciardo. I'm not quite sure. Although it looked like he was. But he's all over the back of Ricciardo. And Sainz makes it work on Ricciardo. Sainz in this first stint was absolutely nowhere. He's just kind of behind them and just sitting there. And then in the second stint, he has really come alive, as has the McLaren. Has also come alive. It seems that these harder tires at McLaren is just a very, very quick car. McLaren has struggled in the last few races. But now you can see he's pulling from Ricciardo. Ricciardo and Stroll, who were dominating the midfield earlier in this race, are now really struggling in this. And it looks like, I believe they did go for the undercut, which has possibly screwed their strategy over, or their tires over at this stage of the race. They're certainly struggling. Here comes Hamilton. He's all over the back of Ricciardo. It's only a matter of time. That Mercedes is just so fast. You can just see how fast it is. Bottas dominating this race, and Hamilton coming into the field very well. And although the Red Bull has also been a decent car this race, it seems the Mercedes seems to be just that little bit better. And here, Hamilton activating overtake briefly there, and he's activating it again on Danny Rick, and here he goes. It's an easy move without even DRS. Now he's got the DRS, and he comes flying past, and it's not even a competition. Ricciardo was out of Sainz's DRS. Now look at how much Sainz has pulled. Ricciardo has lost a second to Sainz that lap, although he did lose a lot in the previous lap in the final corner, but still, he's lost a lot of time, and now Lance Stroll is coming behind him once again. Hamilton is now going to be in pursuit of Carlos Sainz. Will he get him in time? Look at how much Stroll is caught up. I don't know if Ricciardo might actually have a problem, or if he's struggling in his tires, or possibly even both. Because at the moment you can see how much he's losing to Sainz. And Hamilton, of course, Hamilton makes sense because he's in a Mercedes, but look at how much he's already lost to Sainz. And it's just, it's massive, and it is possible that Danny Rick does have a problem with this car. Vettel's just kind of staying behind Stroll. He hasn't actually been that much faster. It doesn't look like that Ferrari is a very quick car, although perhaps Vettel is just the one struggling. So Leclerc is up in second. He did nail that qualifying and start on the front row, but Vettel was down in fourth. Not too far behind his teammate, and now look, he's almost a pit stop behind his teammate on track. And I can see Hamilton. Look at how much Hamilton has already caught up to Sainz. I don't know if he can do it this lap, but probably could. And now it looks like, since Ricciardo's out of Hamilton's DRS, he's not going to be able to defend from Stroll on this straight. And Stroll's probably going to come flying past him with that Mercedes engine. And Vettel's closer to Stroll than last lap, but Stroll's going to have that DRS, so she's going to fend Vettel off. And I don't think Vettel's quite close enough, and I don't think Stroll's quite close enough. The dirty air in that final, in the sweeping right-hander, is just a little bit too much. And then accelerate now. Stroll in this next straight with the DRS. I think he's a little bit too far back to make a move. Vettel tucking out of the slipstream there. Not quite sure why he's done that, because he wasn't anywhere near making a move. It's unfortunate the Ferraris are really struggling in this championship. We're expecting them to be the second fastest car, at worst the third, and they are the third fastest car, but they are some ways off Red Bull. At least Vettel is. Leclerc has been driving pretty damn well in this race, it has to be said. As well as other teams bringing in upgrades like McLaren. It is possible that McLaren do have a quicker car now, although that is very highly unlikely. And it looks like Ricciardo is managing that gap to Stroll now. You know, Stroll isn't as big a threat to Ricciardo as possibly Sainz and Hamilton were, but they are gone. They're absolutely gone. And that's Hamilton in front of Sainz. Hamilton has overtaken Carlos Sainz. I believe he did it on the straight on the last lap, on the previous lap, and it's just unfortunate. You can see Ricciardo is actually allowing the other cars to catch up. Danny Rick definitely has an issue, because his early race pace was nowhere near this slow. And you can see how much closer Norris, Kvyat, and even his teammate Esteban Ocon are now. They were not that close, surely, before. nowhere near that close to Ricardo. Now here on the final lap. Ricardo in front of Stroll, into the hairpin. Stroll couldn't make the overtake, and he's a little bit too far back to make one of the final corner. And it's Danny Rick who holds off Lance Stroll. Barely. A great race.
There'll be many smiles at the factory after that one. A great race and a real team performance to take the win here in Shanghai. So Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
I think that smart tyre management on track and very smooth driving definitely assisted in their victory today. That combination meant they got the absolute maximum out of their tyres at all times.
Mercedes are on top form once again after an excellent race weekend. It's great to see them up on that podium once again. So then, it's time to see how this result affects the Drivers' Championship. After today's performance, Valtteri Bottas secures the championship lead. After an incredible day of racing, who was your driver of the day, Ant?
Often my go-to would be a driver who's managed to pull off an especially impressive feat during the race. However, in this instance, I was more impressed by Max Verstappen's solid, clean driving throughout the event.
Let's move on to the constructors. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. There was also a strong showing from the McLaren team today as they make their way up the standings. Well, Ant, an end to another fantastic weekend of racing. Thanks to everyone who joined us, and we'll see you for the next one.